Hello and welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. As always, the topics that we are covering are mentioned over here. Now, today's newspaper is predominantly based on the theme of caste survey, which was recently released by the Bihar state government. Now, we can add to this the concept of caste census. Right? So there is a demand of caste census. Now, Bihar has come up with caste survey. Okay, so this is important. We'll analyze it. Next is mRNA vaccines. So recently, Nobel Prize in the field of medicine was given for the work on mRNA vaccine. This, by very default, is an important topic. It is believed that this technology, which is also known as plug and play vaccine model, this can be used to create new vaccines for diseases like dengue, tuberculosis, etc. If there is any other pandemic like COVID-19, so immediately we can create vaccines. So for this work, Nobel Prize was given. Okay, so coming to the first article today. So Bihar has released this caste survey, which tells us about a lot of information about the caste-wise breakup of the society. So it says that extremely backward classes, referred to as the EBC, they constitute at 36%. They are a significant amount. In the state of Bihar, OBC accounts for 63% of the population. Fine. Nobody is going to ask you all these facts. Okay. Now, the main thing that we should look at is the need for a caste survey or a need for a caste census across the country. There has been this debate about this. So let us briefly cover this. So I have jotted down the sequence of events. So in our polity or in our society also, a reservation is seen as one of the means for social mobility. Right? So initially we had reservation for scheduled caste, and in certain pockets of the country where there are scheduled tribes, there also reservation was provided. So these are constitutionally guaranteed. Okay, so reservation was there. Now, there was a group, there were people, political parties, who felt that there were many backward castes that were left behind. There were many groups which were not scheduled caste. They were backward and they also needed affirmative measures by the government. So there was a growing chorus, there was a voice making a case for them. Eventually, there was Mandal Commission, which came up in 1979, and it identified backward castes outside of the scheduled caste. So these were named as other backward castes. So there is scheduled caste and those who are backward but not part of scheduled caste, so they are called as other backward castes. Okay, so based on the Mandal recommendation, reservation for the OBCs were provided. Fine, reservation for OBC was provided. So, okay, now when this happened, there also happened the Indra Sani case. A nine-judge bench was there of the Supreme Court. They heard the Indra Sani case. And in this, the important verdict was given, whereby a limit was imposed as to how much reservation can be there. So 50% limit on reservation was imposed. Right. So that was there. Now, after this 50% limit, the breakup of reservation was for scheduled caste 15%, scheduled tribe 7.5% were relevant, and OBCs 27%. Okay, so we have reservation for the OBCs, which amounts to 27%. So this is 1992. We are in 2023, good 29-30 years from this period. Okay. Now in this period, with so much emphasis on caste, OBCs, affirmative action, the governments must know as to who all have benefited, what affirmative actions are required. Is there a group of people amongst the OBCs who have been left behind? right? So that information should be there. So that will come from the caste census or a caste survey. So the Mandal political parties, specifically Mandal political parties, so like Samajwadi Party, uh, JDU party, right? So all these parties, RJD. So they were saying that there should be a caste census. And it is believed that within the OBCs, there are certain people who have benefited, certain groups that have benefited, while there are groups that have been left behind. For example, the extremely backward classes. So this group has actually grown um, since the reservation has taken place. So this thing is increasing despite the fact that reservation is there. So that means there are certain groups who have benefited, their children are benefited, their children are benefited uh, because of the improved socio-economic conditions. These people can afford for their families better education, better means. So they are able to corner most of the reservations, most of the seats that are reserved. Okay. So now there has been a chorus, there has been a voice that why not have a subcategorization of OBC? That is, yes, we have 24.7% for OBCs, but within the OBCs there are various groups. There are some groups who have done relatively well, whereas there are some people who are not doing so well. So identify the groups who needs the maximum support and provide them greater share of reservation within the OBC. So subcategorization of the OBC. Now here I would like to clarify one thing, that we already have creamy layer for OBC. We already have creamy layer, but creamy layer does not segregate that yes, these groups have benefited, these have not benefited. So this subcategorization was required. So Rohini Commission is looking into this. She was a former Delhi High Court Chief Justice. Okay. Similarly, under Prime Minister Modi, there is a committee formed or a proposal for subcategorization of the scheduled caste as well. Fine. So these are the series of events that are going on with reference to caste. We can also add the issue of economically weaker sections. So 10% reservation for that was also there. Okay. So now with the caste census, what will happen? With the caste census, the government should have more information. They can plan better, right? They can take affirmative actions for those who have been left behind. They can prioritize on those groups. So that should take place. So those who were excluded, they should be included. So that is there. That is one argument. That is a pro argument for caste census, caste survey across the country. Okay. By the way, caste survey is only for Bihar. There is obviously a case for having a caste survey or a census across the country. Okay, so this is one point. Second is that with the focus, that with the knowledge that so many people have been left behind, the political parties may push for a greater share of reservation, and this may lead to the breach of 50% limit on reservation imposed by the Indra Sani case. Right. So this may be the second issue. Indra Sani case will keep coming up from now on, should keep coming up. And lastly, subcategorization of the OBCs as well as subcategorization of the scheduled caste. So these are the issues. And besides, if you look at the newspaper goes into the political side of things as well. So there is one big concern with the caste census, that caste census will give the political parties an idea about the caste, the breakup, etc. This may further lead to deepening of the fault lines, right? So fault lines between the different caste groups. So it may actually further instigate caste-based politics, which may not be good for the country. But saying this and not, for this reason, not giving caste-related data, that will be wrong, because caste-related data is still required. That knowledge, that awareness is still required, and we live in a democracy. Okay, so yeah, so that's the issue, deepening of the fault lines. And pure politics, it is said that the Mandal political parties, they needed a fresh push, given that Prime Minister Modi's rise has weakened the caste dimension to the politics. Okay, fine. So this I have overall discussed. This is covered in the opinion section as well. This is covered in the explained section as well. So everything I have combined together over here. And of all the articles, if you wish to read, I would just recommend the explainer section. Okay. Now we come to the mRNA vaccine. mRNA also we can do from the explainer section. So very briefly about the vaccines now. So first of all, mRNA vaccine, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was given to these two scientists, Katalin Kariko and Drew Weissman, Hungary-based people whose decades-long research helped make mRNA vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic. Fine. And it was the first time during the pandemic that mRNA vaccines were used for the So first time they were used during this 2020 time period. Okay. So let us first cover the traditional type of vaccines, then this mRNA vaccine, and some of the benefits of the mRNA vaccine, specifically because of the decade-long research of these scientists. So traditional vaccines work on the phenomena, the traditional vaccines, they work on the phenomena that a virus is injected into the human body. So virus is injected into the human body. It triggers a response. So this virus is maybe a weakened virus is there, attenuated virus, inactivated virus, a dead virus. So that could be there. For example, Covax vaccine that was there, it was having the dead this thing. Polio vaccine is attenuated, weakened virus. Even injected polio vaccine is dead virus, and oral polio vaccine is weakened virus. So weakened form of virus is injected into the human body rather than a full-fledged virus. So this triggers a response, and the human body automatically creates antibodies and antigens. So they know that if a virus comes in, actual virus, these antibodies have to be created. So the body is better prepared to deal with the disease or the virus infection. Okay, so these are the typical types of vaccines. But there is one more type of vaccine which is known as vector vaccine. So the Covishield vaccine was a vector vaccine. And this, what happens is, in this, I'll give you example of this COVID, this thing only. So in this, what happened is COVID vaccine, COVID had this spike protein, right? So this is the coronavirus. So this was the place where the actual virus was there, and the spike enters into the human body and then releases this capsule, right? And the body, this thing goes in. So what they did was, they created the spike protein. They separated from the virus. The spike protein was injected into adenovirus. It's common cold virus that was taken from the poop of chimpanzee. Right, so from the poop of the chimpanzee, they took adenovirus, they added the spike protein. We already have immunity to adenovirus. So this was added to the human body. So this is a vector virus where adenovirus, a separate virus, is used. Okay, now with all these types of vaccines, the problem is it is dependent on animal culture. It is difficult to mass produce, and there is always a chance of infection. There is a risk of infection. For example, oral polio vaccine, 1 in a million cases, one may be perfectly fine, but because of the injection of the putting of the weakened virus, you may actually get polio. So there is also risk of infection, right? So there are certain concerns, and plus it takes time to create these vaccines. Now a novel approach known as mRNA vaccine came up. mRNA is messenger RNA. So these are instructions that the nucleus releases typically in the eukaryotic cell, in a cell basically. So instructions that released, they are known as mRNA. They are done through this. These are like the letters. So mRNA vaccine, there is basically the genetic code So this is this is put into the human body. This is injected into the human body. These are instructions. So the instructions are given to the human body that antibodies of this type has to be created to deal with the virus. So the scientists these days, they have the code of the virus, right? They make small editing to the virus so that it doesn't affect the human body adversely, and it gives the instructions that antigens or antibodies have to be created against the actual virus. So this is the mRNA vaccine. Okay. Now, this was used for the first time during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, their contribution comes into play. This was known, but their contribution comes into play in making the mRNA vaccine more accessible. See, it was noticed that for mRNA vaccine, if they were injected into the human body, there was a high inflammation, there was a reaction, there was allergy into the human body. So, but if it was from animal culture, then it was not there. If it was lab produced, then there was a problem, right? But animal culture is again difficult to get, so you cannot use animal culture for mass production. It is difficult in short span of time. So with their research, they were able to develop lab produced base for injecting mRNA virus. So lab produced could be done. So they used this fatty nucleic acid to inject the mRNA vaccine. So this was lab produced. Further, for mRNA to store it, temperatures of minus 70 degrees Celsius up to minus 70 degrees Celsius, you can imagine how difficult it was to store and then get it to the human body. Okay, so with their research, it was possible to have it at a manageable temperatures of 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. And this is the common temperature of a refrigerator. So easier storage conditions were there. Now, mRNA vaccine clubbed with the technology of editing CRISPR Cas9, it is easy to make additions, changes to the virus. So now we have codes of TB, dengue, malaria, etc. So we can very easily we can make vaccines for diseases for which there are no vaccines as yet, right? Because we need the live virus and everything. So we have this technique can be used to create vaccines at a short span of time. And these vaccines does not have the side effects of DNA vaccine. So these are the benefits, and these were possible because of the decades-long research by Kathleen Carrico and Drew Weissman. Okay. So the Indian scientists are saying that they can make now vaccines of Nipah, Zika, foot and mouth disease, TB, because of the prevalence of mRNA vaccine making technology. And mRNA is known as plug and play model. If in mains it is asked, it will be in GS3 Science and Tech, and it can be very much asked in the exam. So the main part I have actually covered from the newspaper. Okay, now we come to the editorial section. Yeah, so the first one is justice counts. So this is again about the caste survey that was released by the Bihar state government. So same things actually which I have discussed, I have actually referred to multiple articles and then I've given you the analysis. So same thing is repeated. Canada's hollow moral politic, right? I'm not doing this, but we all know Canada being soft about India's concerns about sovereignty, Khalistan issue, etc. But selective actions of the Canadian government, so that is hollow moral politic. Okay, bad air plan. It sounds like bad planning for air quality, right? But that's not the case. So this is about, we're basically talking about New Delhi, the national capital region, which includes Delhi and surrounding areas like Gurgaon, etc. So in those areas, in the NCR region, every year we see lot of pollution, especially during the winter months. Right. So after this Kharif Kharif is harvesting is done, then Rabi plantation takes place. So post that October-November period until the winters, we see lot of pollution. It is well known that pollution will take place in that region because of stubble burning, because of vehicular pollution, because of the climatic conditions, primarily inversion of temperature. Okay. So we all know this. So Supreme Court had mandated that there should be some sort of a body that regulates how planning for pollution takes place. So at the moment we have graded response action plan. Graded means response action plan. Of course, there is a problem, so response has to be there, but it should be in a graded approach. So as and when the air quality index falls, the severity of measures increases. Right, so yellow, orange, right, so yeah, yellow, amber, orange, and red. So you can see the series of measures that have been recommended. If you wish, you can take the screenshot, but nobody's going to ask you. So there is this graded response action plan for the whole of NCR region and the vicinity areas. Now the graded response action plan is implemented by Central Air Quality Management, CAQM. And this in turn comes under Central Pollution Control Board, which in turn comes under Ministry of Environment. This is nothing, power of influencers. I was just reading. We have Prime Minister Modi going to an influencer, Bhayan Puria. So it's just telling us about the rise of the influencer community. Next, a plan for the winter crop. What is the winter crop? Rabi season in North India. So yes. So it's basically he writes on Mr. Ashok Galati writes on agriculture and policy making. More or less points are similar only. Okay, so this one is a critique of the government's policy of export bans and stocking limits. So this is a critique on this. Now, so fine. So these export bans and stocking limits were basically because of this issue of expected El Nino year plus the stopping of the Black Sea grain deal, right? So because of that, the government was concerned that there may be a food shortage. So the government restricted the exports from India to elsewhere in the world because India wanted to create buffer within itself so that grains are there and they are able to regulate the prices. Inflation was also an issue. So stocking limits means how much the warehouses can store, how much can the people who buy the crops from the farmers they can store so that they don't indulge in black marketing. Okay, so this is not the best way forward because having export bans or stocking limits affects the interest of the farmers. You're telling the farmer that you cannot get the, if the farmer gets a better price in the export market, so they will go to the export market. So it is not in the best interest of the farm's economy. Okay. And here he's saying that this is very important. He says that already we have these schemes of the government, right, like National Food Security Act, etc., in which about 800 million people are about 80 crores. They are already getting rations at a very, very subsidized rates. So that is already there. So having these export bans and stocking limits, who is the government trying to protect? So this is the urban middle class, but this benefit is coming, protection is coming at the interest of the farmers, who in general are affected because of various factors. Their income, livelihood is affected. To protect the cost and the interest of the urban middle class. So that is what the author is saying. A bit of a valid point over here. Okay. Now let's analyze the statement. Better technology and policies must be developed to ensure farmers get their due. And the next statement is abrupt export bans or stocking limits are not the best way forward. Okay. So let's break this also because here you don't get much. It's just an thing about what all is happening, right? So basically better technology and policies are needed. So what technologies can be there for the farm sector? Right, let's do it that way, right? Okay, So technologies to boost the farm sector. And by the way, here again, we can make a case for having favorable policies for agriculture sector. We can talk about agri GDP and national GDP comparison. So agri GDP is around 3.54% of the GDP, while the national growth rate is around 7%, 8% of the GDP. So agriculture is staying behind. Plus, there is the issue of the rural distress, farmer suicides. So more has to be, the farm income has to be made profitable. For this, the farmers should get better price. They should have access to better markets. Okay, so you can make this case over here. When you're making an argument, you can always state this fact. Now coming to the technology side of things, what can be there? So there is something known as precision farming, right? So use of drones, use of precision micro irrigation, right? Computer linked use of information technology in farming. So that those can be part of better technology. Okay. Then there is this technique of zero tillage. When the soil is tilled, so till the soil is removed and for circulation. So when this is done, it releases carbon dioxide that is captured in the soil. Plus it loosens the soil. So nowadays they're saying zero tilling farming should be done. Rather, we should have seed drilling. So this is a direct seeding, for example, direct seeding of rice. So these are better approaches to farming. Okay, next is, of course, micro irrigation is there. So farm related things. Besides, we can also talk about marketing related infrastructure. For example, market related intelligence, so that the farmer knows beforehand which crops they should buy. We can also have weather intelligence, weather forecast. So farmers are able to plan better. Then warehousing infrastructure, warehousing arrangements. So those can be added as part of technology. Next, policies. Better policies must be deployed. So what policies would be there? It's the same thing. It's export bans, stocking limits. These should not be there. Policies for marketing reforms, policies for market intelligence, policy for bringing these technologies to the farm sector. These are known as farm extension services. These are done through Krishi Vigyan Kendras. Right. So those are the things. And policies for improving the farm insurance sector, identifying the loopholes and rectifying it. So those are the things. Next, a very interesting article, the investment reality check. So the author is basically saying that Indian economy is doing well. We have GDP growth, which is fine. Geopolitically, we are fine. There is no political tensions. Look at what is happening in China and Taiwan. Look at what is happening in the Europe. Right. Look at elsewhere, Argentina or any other country or US. The inflation is going skyrocketing. Ours is at a manageable level. There is peace and prosperity. Right. Besides this, our economy has all the favorable factors of production. Credit is capital is there, labor is there, skilled labor is there, so land is there. So factors of production also we have a tick mark over here. Plus these MNCs are looking at China plus one strategy. So China plus one, by now, right? Apple is there. For example, Apple, Tesla, etc. They have a factory in China, all these MNCs. So now they are, because of the issues with China, like COVID and their policies of capital outflow is restricted, plus the possibility of invasion of Taiwan. These companies are looking at, they say that, okay, we have to be part of China. We can't avoid it because we have made so many investments, but we should look at other avenues also. For example, India, Vietnam, and other countries. So that is China plus one strategy. So we have a very favorable case for attracting investments. What else is needed, right? Everything is there. But despite this fact, the investments to a country in the form of foreign direct investment is falling. So in 22-23, FDI that came was $71.3 billion. This was down from 84.8 billion. This is up roughly 16%. So 16% fall is there. So what explains this fall. And in fact, the equity that is coming, that money that is coming, it is from equity trade, fresh equity flows. Not like OnePlus says that we will have a manufacturing unit in India. So not like that. More of this is equity flows, stock market trading, and all those things. So what are the conditions? What are the reasons that FDI is not coming despite all these good things? So there are several possible reasons. Here it is mentioned. So where because of it, domestic companies are hesitant to invest in India. So that is uncertain business environment. Uncertain business environment, uneven playing field, fear of the rules of the game being arbitrarily changed midway. So this rules of the game being changed, for example, for electronics manufacturing, the government, the BJP government which was there, it criticized the Congress policy of inverted duty structure, restrictive licensing policy, protectionist approach. They came up with something known as phased manufacturing program. So they came up with phased manufacturing program. But it's not even like 5 years been there. They have again resorted to inverted duty structure, licensing approach. So same backward looking, those steps are there. So you say something, but you're not implementing it on the ground. Likewise, we can also talk about the automobile sector also. So that time is not there, that urgency is there. So that is leading to lack of clarity in policy domain. So I don't want to go into uneven playing field and uncertain business environment again. Maybe we can still say that ease of doing business ranking is improved, but it is not still there, right? So there are a lot of regulatory issues which affects investment coming to India. Other countries are performing much better. In fact, we are seeing that more of this money, FDI, is coming to Vietnam, Philippines, etc., as compared to India. Now, last reason is that these countries are part of ASEAN, they are part of Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, they are part of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. These are free trade agreements of which India is not part of. The recent RCEP has this system of rules, the origin point. That is, the thing has to be made within this block only, then only the tax benefits would be there. So since India is not part of this, India is not able to give this the tax related benefits as the items manufactured here get. So that is the issue. Coming to the international section, Trump arrives in New York court for trial in civil fraud case called fine. So basically, Trump lost the election. He first of all he had this information, that some secret information, nuke-related information, which he did not declare. Plus, he is known to have instigated violence on the Capitol building when he lost elections. So, number of things are there against him, and therefore, a lot of lawsuits are there on Donald Trump. Plus, he is now saying that he will contest the presidency for the presidency. So, more cases coming his way. Okay. Ukraine's capital Kyiv brushes off US and Slovakia wobbles as EU leaders convene. Okay. So, first wobble, USA. Wobble means setbacks. So US, we know that there was a shutdown going on, and now there is a stopgap approach that minimum amount of funding is to be provided to the government so that they can function. Now this does not include the component for supporting Kyiv. So that is not there. So obviously this is a setback for the Ukraine, which is fighting against Russia with the help of aid from USA and other countries. What is the Slovakia wobble? Slovakia, there was an election. Now the new president or the prime minister, he is in favor of, he's anti-Ukraine, he is pro-Russia. So this undermines the Ukrainian efforts. China's lunar mission to carry payload from Pakistan. Nothing wrong with that. And their lunar mission is known as Chang'e. And this Chang'e 6, the latest lunar mission of theirs, It will be scheduled for launch in 2024. They plan to land on the south pole of the moon, South Pole, Aitken Basin of the moon. Chinese military releases short film on Taiwan reunification. So reunification of China and Taiwan on the east, and separated by the East China Sea. Okay. So I've kept saying this also, that there is a possibility of an invasion, but if somebody knows about the Chinese, they don't say, they just do it. Now they're saying it. Okay, economy news. State government employees regularized mid-career blame NPS for lower pay. Okay. This news has been there for some time, so let's quickly cover this. So first of all, this new pension scheme, which replaced the old pension scheme. Previous arrangement, the old arrangement of the old pension scheme was that the government employee who retires, right? So government employee who retires, they get pension amount, which is roughly 40% of their last drawn salary. Well, that was simple. The new pension scheme says that pension will be available, pension payout after retirement will be a function of the contributions made by the employee. So it depends entirely upon the contributions made by the employee. It is like no fixed percentage of your last drawn salary. Now, many state governments have actually said that they want to resort back to the old pension scheme. Okay, so this was the prior news. Now coming to this, state government employees regularized. So there are these people who were working on the freelance, who were working on the contractual basis with the government. Now they were regularized. They were made permanent employees. But in middle of their career, it's not like they started their career with the state government. So they may have risen in their job profile, right, their post, etc. But their contributions are limited because they joined not at this inception, but at the middle level of 35 years of 30, 35, 40 years of age. So therefore, their lower payout is their pension pay is given to them. SEBI extends deadline for listed companies to confirm or deny market rumors. Fine. Salary bill hikes for India Inc. Okay. Now we come to the explained section. So it's better if you read this article itself. I have explained this already, but it's better if you read this. Tuesday, which is today, we expect Nobel Prize in Physics. Okay. It's better if you read from here, right? This is the one which is of a value. If you read from here, this notes, bit of it I've done. Okay, 4 takeaways from Bihar survey. Same things are mentioned over here. But yes, more emphasis on the political side of things. How the findings impact coming elections. All that thing is there.